All right, so under the dashboard of the 40 Buick here, like I said, I got this thing in. I got most of my wires ready to go. This back wire for the lights, that was the one that was, that should be the power in. And it goes up into the harness for the most part. This guy here, okay? It goes up into the harness, that powers it. And then you got these other two frayed wires that are here. This is still good. It's out in the open, but I'm going to tape it up, or I'm going to put liquid black tape on it. Now, as far as the back of the fuel gauge is, that's one of the hubs. The other hub is obviously the ammeter gauge right there. So that's the wire that's going to the gas gauge. I took everything off the other one. The radio was like a push-on wire that went on there. And then right now, I still got a wire on... Hang on a second. Not easy to see what I'm trying to see. Okay, so these two bigger, fatter wires probably not going to be needed. I'm still trying, and the other wire I think is jumped from another set of wires that I took off of the fuel gauge. Right here. Oh, that's a light bulb. Right here, this guy. So, I believe this guy here that was on the fuel gauge is one of these over here that's jumped. It jumps over to the ammeter gauge. I could be wrong, because that should be, actually that side should be with the key on, and the ammeter should be power all the time. The power all the time, it's weird, because unless the starter had that other wire, because that wire, the big wire, I don't know if I showed it to you in another video, but this is that big ass wire coming through all the way through the main harness, and it basically went to the to one of the heater switches, and then it jumped from the heater switch to the ammeter gauge. But there was already wire going to the ammeter gauge anyway. I guess it's on the side that pulls, because there's one with the power in. That's this wire up here that somehow gets powered. That guy right there, this one, took that off. All these should be dead wires when I'm done, because there's really nothing to really power in this car other than, that's why I'm going to go from an alternate fuse box to power these switches. I'll show you in a second. Like this is a light switch that just turns on and off the dashboard lights. So there's like individual wires. I guess they didn't feel good about jumping each wire, you know, so it looks like there's power in, and it probably comes from the switch. I don't know if this is power all the time, if you can just turn it on at will, the dashboard lights, or you have to have the headlight switch on. Either way, the original power wire, I can very easily jump it. This looks to be a ground that grounds all the dash separately, and it went around one of the switches. And like this guy here, I gather it's got to be going to the lights mostly, like the lights to the back or something like that. But obviously, it goes through it has to still go through the high-low beam switch first, something along those lines. I'm not quite sure yet. I haven't got to that. Still can't be too much. Pretty much all the power is going to start from the headlight switch for all the lights. I can't see anything else turning on the headlight lights on the parking lights, unless this switch here, that just on and off, that turns on the dash lights, that one has a separate wire feed. Easy to do either way, no problem. But I'm taking off all this power, and like I said, I was running 6 volts to the back of the fuel gauge and to the radio. My only problem is now I realize the clock has got to be on all the time. So either I got to run both of those units that I bought and literally, but I literally run one of those units and they're like $30-something each. Kind of rather save it in case I need it for the blowers. I don't think I will. That being said, this is what I made. This guy. So I'm going to have power with the key on with this, and this is going to power the blower motors. You know, there's 2 separate motors for that. I'll have one going to the lights. Oh no, this is with the key on. So the lights are just going to be jumped there because they have their own fuses, a lot of these things, or you don't really want, you know, lights are never usually fused. Maybe I could put a circuit breaker in there or something like that. That's initially what I was thinking. So I'll be jumping it. No, I can't do that. Hang on a second. The headlights are going to be... See, that's the other thing I was saying. I was thinking about putting the headlights on with the key on, because then you just shut off the key and they go on. I'm not quite sure yet. Either that, I got to run a new wire from, you know, inside the car, inside the engine compartment. That being said, this is the one of the units there for the 6 volt, and this is the power going out, and these are all be 6 volt things. I jumped these 2. I used this little thing, so the radio and the fuel gauge. And if I want to add another jumper wire, I can put it to something else. There really isn't much else. If I had to run something else, I'd probably hook up the other one, because even though this is 30 amps out, this is like, I don't even know if it's 12 gauge even, so I don't see how that's 30 amps. But I guess things could be a little bit different with 6 volts. But again, these are all Chinese-built things. Anyway, so this bolt right here, this bolt hole, that's going to end up going on one of the steering column bolts. So, this is not a ton of room here. And I'm going to clip this throttle cable. It says throttle, but I might turn it into a choke. Not quite sure yet. Come on, you fucker. This is not easy when you're holding this shit. So, I'm apparently blind as a bat. Okay, so I'm like, I test fed it already. Okay, so this is going to use the bolt right here for the steering column. That's a better look at it. And now this is riding right up against this bracket here that's going up the column. You know, it's support for the steering column. So it's kind of be out of the way, yet I'll be able to plug in these fuses without an issue, or add on wires for the 6 volt part. I just got to mount the 6 volt little junction here somewhere. I might just silicone it to the aluminum, you know, thing here, because it's really not a big deal. It's not going anywhere. But I think that's going to be neat. May have to, I got to, you know, play with this. This is the temperature gauge, and then I got this throttle cable. You know, obviously I don't want it to hit anything with power, but I don't think it will anyway. Not too big of a deal, but I'll just probably run it above it or something like that. It can only hit a ground at this point. So when I bolt that in, it just misses. I'm going to cheat it all the way towards the column side. And it's just going to miss the linkage here for the vent. So I made sure I was playing with it, and it only gets further away actually when I close it. So only be kind of close when it's open. So I made the hole bigger because I can play with where I'm going with it. And you know, when this gets bolted down, it'll actually have a positive, you know, thing. It'll be really up against that from the way I bent it. It should be, you know, fine. So again, may put the lights with the key on. Be kind of neat. However, not sure if I'll do that, because then if that gives power, see, that's the other thing. I need power with the key on for the blinkers, but you know, it'd be kind of cool to put in, you know, like a hazard, a 4-way hazard, but not sure if the extra wire in the back is there for that, because there's only one wire for the brake lights. Not sure yet. Not a big deal. I don't have to do it. And you know, I was thinking actually, since I'm talking about directionals, this thing has got to be a pain in the neck. I don't even know if it works, obviously, but I was thinking about, let me get a better view here. I was seriously thinking about a decent upgrade for this. Instead of having it here, which is like, you almost got to have your hand on the inside to do that. I was thinking of bending, heating up metal, making a long rod here, making a bend come around, somewhat ornate, and then boom, 90 degrees in with the same thread. That being said, it's got to be able to be screwed in, and I'm not quite sure how I would do it, maybe with a union of some sort. Just thinking out loud, it would be kind of neat. Either that or like a thing with a hole. And then I could probably keep this, put a ring around this that could be clamped on, and then use this, and this will move with it at the same time. Because I can't see shifting and hitting the directional at the same time, It's kind of wild, I wonder if it cancels on its own. That's incredible, 1940, and it cancels on its own. So that's actually working. So it'd be kind of neat though to put it on the other side. Little things I'm thinking about. But I just can't think of anything but the directionals, which have got to be tied into the lights to a certain degree. Then again, the directionals only work when the car is on. So I'm thinking about that. Only the radio and the clock. Like I said, the clock, I may have to get one of those resistors that other people talk about, and just for that one thing. That way it can run all the time. But I don't even know if it works. It would be kind of cool if it did. You got to see the nest I took out of here. But I'm going with the 12-volt lighter. I'm going to change the bulbs in here even for 12 volt, but it'd be interesting once I find where this wire goes. I think there's a glove box light in here too, which is astonishing from what I read. But it may have been an option. It may not be here on this particular car, or maybe it's right up there. Or is that just ripped? That's a latch. There's probably nothing stopping me from putting one in. But if there is one, I'm not 100% sure. And then this thing here, I ordered this. This cost me almost $40. This is like messed up, melted or something. But this rod is free, And I ordered these hoses from eBay from China. And I got the vent hose on the outside. There's nothing left of this one. It goes all the way to the other side, I saw. And this one here is like so ready to crumble. In a certain sense, I kind of just want to leave it alone. But it's going to be real interesting with the electrical, because I'm not going to use any of the original, feeding wires that feed the power. But like I said, I got to put something power all the time. So I may run another wire just for the lights. Trying to think what else would be power all the time. There's not much. Probably the lighter. That's about it, And even that I can, get away from. But it shouldn't be too much of a problem to run a couple of wires for these two, constant powers. And that's about it. I think that covers most of what I was talking about, and it's going to be interesting. I want to see how this works. Can't wait. But I gotta call it a night. I got things to do.